All right. So, hello. Come in, come in. Good to see you guys. So, lately we've been kind of at a crossroads. I know that healthcare workers here in North Carolina have had to choose whether or not they're going to be vaccinated beyond their consent, or they'll have to agree to some crazy terms like get tested twice a week or pay for their own testing or what have you. Teachers, we know that that's coming up. And so a lot of us are feeling pressure that it's time to stand. Um, Tonight, we're going to talk to someone very special, a good friend of mine by the name of Gaston. And he, was presented with the same choice that healthcare workers have been presented with, teachers, airline pilots. It's happening everywhere. Do I make a medical decision that the government is forcing me to do, or my job? Or do I take a stand and for freedom? And so I want to bring him on. So Gaston Murray, hi.
Hey,
You're
Sloan.
on. So we're going to talk about, what's been going on with you. You were the men's coach for tennis at the Citadel, and loved it with all your heart. I mean, this is, incredibly shocking. We talked yesterday and you told me what happened, and I knew immediately that I wanted you to come on and talk to our audience and kind of give words of encouragement just through your narrative and tell us what happened and what you decided to do about it.
Yep. So thank you, Sloan, for having me on here. So I gave a little background to the audience. I was the men's assistant tennis coach for the Citadel under Chuck Creasy for the last 2 years and 1 month. And as everyone knows, with this pandemic, COVID-19 happening, after the first year, our season was canceled in the middle of spring. So we were in Dallas, Fort Worth at the time, and had to go back to Charleston and leave our spring break, and never saw those seniors again, unfortunately. And then fast forward to the next season after the pandemic, we were under protocols. We had to wear masks inside, outside, if necessary, if other teams or other officials required it at another site. And that was that. And now we fast forward to year 3, which I previously told, Coach Creasy, I'm going to be here for another year. I wanted to stick it out with the guys and be a mentor to them on and off the court. And before I got back to the Citadel, I talked to my coach over the summer, and there really wasn't too many restrictions or rules. As you can see, if you're watching, the news channels on America, every state or county is different. And South Carolina is one of those states where you have a lot of other things lifted, more so than restricted. And so I got to campus around August, and, was some talks about, COVID and policies and what the athletic director was going to do. And before I got there, the only policies that were made were if you were unvaccinated, you had to wear a mask inside. But if you were outside, you didn't have to wear a mask. If you were vaccinated, you still didn't have to wear a mask inside. And obviously, most of you who are paying attention to those rules know that that's pretty universal. So in the first, I believe, 2 weeks of the school year, I got an email from the athletic director with a new policy. And he told the faculty and staff and anyone who was in the athletic administration that anyone who was unvaccinated would not be allowed to travel with their respective teams, would have to pay their own way for away matches, gas, hotel, food, etc. And when I got this email, I was shocked. My coach was shocked as well, and it was very disappointing. And before that year, there was another person in the athletic administration. I won't mention her name, but she was encouraging me to take the vaccine, and I said, no, I'm not going to take it. It's kind of like an encouragement, but I just said no. And then we come to year 3 where, this happens. I get an unexpected email. And as soon as I got this, I kind of knew my time was done. I was kind of unsure if maybe I wanted to stay around. because it was tempting because I developed a strong relationship with the guys on and off the court. It was bigger than tennis. And so from then and there, I decided, you know what, I got to take a stand. I'm not going to bow down to this vaccinated war. I gave my resignation letter to the athletic director, and I said, you know, I respectfully understand why you're doing this, but I did not agree that we should put vaccinated versus unvaccinated in terms of giving them favoritism, because we all know that people who have gotten the vaccine can get COVID-19 as well. Mm-hmm. And so I just said, you know what, you know, enough is enough for me. I had to take a stand, and here I am now. It's a different time for me, but it's also an exciting time because it was a chance for me to really stand up and stand for my freedom, and that's what I did.
So, you know, Gaston, with you, it's always been more than tennis, more than whatever. I mean, your passion and where we connected is you've always had a passion for leadership, in particular, leading young men. We're both of the same mindset that there has been a devastating blow to manhood. It's come over the last 20 years. It's been specifically directed at minorities, definitely students of color, because we see it, right? A lot of these stupid ass programs, like the transgender training, et cetera, and social emotional learning, they're actually targeted specifically at these schools, right? Schools where, you know, you have people trapped in them, and they do these programming. I don't know if it's experimentation or what, but you know, there's a lot of minority males that are kind of a captive audience. And so there's a lot of mistreatment, a lot of non-academic stuff going on. And point in fact, there needs to be more leadership, right? There needs to be, you know, a purity. There needs to be some sort of, you know, turnaround. And I always thought that if this day ever came, that you would actually, you know, take up the real journey that I think you should be on, right? And kind of help me at Education First Alliance, because we're sort of doing that, right? I mean, our mission is to save students, but you've always talked about that as finding your calling, and definitely being a leader. For me, and hearing your story, it's very on brand for you, but it doesn't make it easy.
Right. I mean, I definitely didn't know I was going to take the stand this early. You know, talking with my parents, especially my mom and my dad, and they were very understanding and supportive of it.
What'd they say? Like, who did you tell first?
Well, when I got the email, you know, I called my mom, as she was a nurse practitioner. She is a nurse practitioner who has her own family practice. And it's funny that you mentioned teachers, because she's been getting calls from all over the place the last 2 weeks about, you know, faculty who've been forced into this vaccination war. If you don't take this vaccine, and if you don't bow down to this mandate, you're going to lose your job. So she's heard all the tears and all the stories, and it's happening at a rapid pace. I mean, she's inherited patients who, I believe I explained this to you before, where you had a husband who was unvaccinated and the wife was vaccinated, and the medical office or family practice said, we're no longer going to serve you because you're unvaccinated, and you're going to have to take this vaccination. Well, so we won't provide any services. And so the husband left, and the wife left as well, even though she was vaccinated, and she inherited more patients through that. So it's kind of, you know, this, what we like to call this kind of woke war, but it's actually really killing itself. But to go back to, you know, my family and, you know, what they said about, they were very supportive, family of prayer, growing up in a Christian home, you know, we stand strong with our beliefs, but we also stand strong for our freedom. And, you know, they were very proud of me. You know, it wasn't too emotional. They understood that I had to take a stand, and that's what I did. And my dad found out second. And I had a conversation with him today about it. It was a hard conversation. It's obviously something that you don't want to go through. No one wants to, you know, quit the job or resign because of stuff like this. But I want to encourage everyone who's listening to this that these things have to happen if you want to make a pathway for freedom, if you want to be a pioneer for your generation, if you're trying to lead a generation to righteous, posterity, then you have to understand who you are. And I understood that I wasn't a coward. I understood that I wasn't going to back down. I'm not going to be bullied or manipulated into doing something that I know wasn't right, especially when my finances and other things were taken away with it.
Yeah, amen. I mean, this is, you only know what your values are when you're willing to die for them, right? I mean, I'm, over dramatizing it, of course, but yeah, I mean, look, anytime that you mix, let's see, public health with coercion and lying, and censorship, pretty much, yeah, I mean, any reasonable person would have the right to say no. I'm not sitting here and saying any reasonable person wouldn't take a vaccination. I'm saying any reasonable person at that point would be right if they chose to question that. That's what you did. And again, for me, I'm with you. I mean, I'm not getting it, period, straight up. And the reason is because I have contact with a good amount of scientists. And look, the science isn't settled on this. Right? The science isn't settled. Doctors are saying different things. And as long as I keep hearing that, which, by the way, you usually do when there's new treatments out on the market. But until it settles something, it's a damn roulette wheel going around. And I'd prefer to see where the ball bearing stops, if you know what I mean, before I make my decision. And so I don't think you're anti-vax. I've never heard you say anything like that. I think you're pro-freedom.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm 27 years old. I've been sick before. I've never really taken a vaccine. Maybe I took, a flu shot when I was really, really young, or maybe I got some little, vaccinations when I was a baby. But other than that, my parents have never advocated me to take something
that you don't need,
that I don't even know what's in. I think we live in a world today where we don't see people apply wisdom where they need to apply it. If you look at what's happening, not just in America, but in other nations with Israel, we see that another country, I believe it was Sweden, who banned all, I think, people from Israel traveling there, or banned their vaccine ports or something like that. I have to do more research on it. But quick story to that is that you even have people in Israel, a bunch of them are in hospitals.
Yeah.
And they're vaccinated.
Yeah.
But you don't hear about it. You won't hear news talk about it. You won't hear, on CNN, MSNBC, any of these channels, because they want to create this war of vaccinated versus unvaccinated.
Fox News too. All of their personalities are totally on board with it, except for Tucker Carlson. And he's not against it. He's just for, hey, make your own decision. I mean, look, in Israel, young men were getting heart problems, inflammation of the heart. I mean, it's absolutely real. And you mentioned, there's a lot of wars going on with married couples. The wife wants to get the shot, the husband doesn't. So this is real. And it's not your, my family likes Carolina and his family likes, it's not like that. I mean, it's serious stuff here. About this stuff. And it's interesting. I'll just share a personal story. I'm married to a scientist, and I'm married to a scientist who runs the global testing, right? And is over clinical trials, et cetera. And we have been married for, we've been together for 17 years. And we never have argued. I'm not kidding you. We go to war when we're talking about vaccinations. I'm a journalist. He's a scientist. So I kind of thought we could talk about this stuff, but I'm telling you, people who are in the business, and I mean, you're having doctors and scientists, they're saying, hey, listen, scientific method out the window, right? And I'm like, a journalist, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Don't you even want to know about the adverse events? Nope, it's never happening. I mean, so people are losing their minds, people who would ordinarily be fine. And like I said, we never fight. So, this is a very, very serious issue.
Yeah, and again, people have to do their own research and make their best decision. Mm-hmm. And when I talk about the vaccines, I've clearly stated to my audience, anyone who's on Instagram, Facebook, that If you take the vaccine, that's on you. That's your personal decision. That's what you make for your personal freedom. And I'm fine if people want to do that. But here's what people need to stop doing. They need to stop manipulating others and say, oh, well, if you don't take the vaccine, you're going to end up in a ventilator. You're going to end up sick, and all this kind of, nonsense and rhetoric that you hear on the Facebook feeds, Instagram stories, news, you name it. And it seems like people want to jump on this bandwagon of just getting the vaccine because they're afraid that if they speak up for their freedom, if they go opposite from what the status quo is doing, that they know their finances are on the line, their family is on the line, everything that they work for, everything that they dream for, everything that they envisioned, their American dream will be on the line. And that's where we have to toe the line and say, okay, is this about your American dream, or is this about paying a price for this nation?
A tyranny. Yeah. I mean, the other side, we know what it's about, Gaston. It was 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And now here we are getting into our second year. It is tyranny. We see it. We feel it. We understand it. There's,
Yeah, I mean, and the thing about it is, this COVID-19 war has gone on so long. It feels like we've been fighting for this a decade. And it's only been maybe 2.5 years or whatever it may be. But because of so much news and because of so much rhetoric and propaganda and fear that is in the fake news media, all you hear is COVID-19, vaccination, your kids need to wear masks in school. They don't want parents having any decision over their kids. They want to manipulate young people into getting this vaccine because they know it's part of an agenda. It really has nothing to do with really, they say, science, because if you want to follow science, then let's start treating ourselves with actual natural remedies, and let's start promoting things like exercise. Let's start promoting things like getting in the gym, working out, losing weight. Some of these news stories that I see, or news outlets, when they're promoting that if you show your VAT card to a Krispy Kreme kind of donut station, whatever, right? You get 2 free Krispy Kreme donuts. I'm like, listen, you're talking about, no, but this is real. We know this is real.
Yeah.
You're talking about your health. You're talking about getting healthy with a vaccine, and yet you're pushing unhealthy food choices. Which side are you on? I mean,
in the damn gym.
I know. I mean, are you that woke? Are you that desperate to show that this vaccine really works? You wouldn't have to go to that measures. You even see it in churches. I've seen it on Instagram, and this is not to get religious or whatever, but when you have pastors requiring vaccine mandates to come into their church, and even if you have a medical condition, they said,
that's crazy.
One church says, this is crazy. Listen to this. This pastor, this bishop said that even if you have a medical issue with the vaccine, they encourage them to stay home with their kids. I mean, this is true. I mean, and I'll send you the information after this. This is how crazy America has become. They're so bottled up with fear. They don't understand how to really make those decisions. But again, I'm glad I made my stand early, because there's a whole lot of my friends that I know are going to have to make a stand, and hopefully they make the right ones. And again, I'm not going to condemn them if they take the vaccine, because again, it's their personal choice. I clearly said that. I'm not going to treat anyone any different because they got a vaccine, but do not manipulate me or my freedom, because I want to take a stand for what's right.
Amen. Yeah. I think that's the way to do it. And, thank you for coming on with me and explaining it. The whole purpose of having you here and documenting this is just one of many conversations that we're going to have about this, is that you came to a crossroads and you made a choice and you decided for freedom, which again is completely on brand. You only know, what door you're going to push open or what lever you're going to have when you do it, right? When you're willing to risk something. So, all my teachers out there, I've gotten a ton of calls just today. a ton of calls. And it's kind of on both ends. I mean, the teachers are like, look, I don't want to take the vaccination. They've got their personal reasons. Fine. They don't want to do it. But I've also got parents calling me and saying, look, you know, God forgive me, but homeschooling's too hard. I can't do it. But all these things are going on. Hey, listen, you know what? Your children are your own. Your body is your own. And unfortunately, we live in a world right now where you're going to have to be terribly inconvenienced to stand up to protect both of them.
That's it. Yeah, it's crazy because people think that they have all these options and all these choices. And I'm reminded of what Glenn Beck said in this podcast. One day you're going to have to come to a decision to choose. There's no such thing as the middle ground. There's no such thing as the middle road. And America has been believing that lie for a very, very long time. I hope they wake up to it, because there's no such thing as living a mediocre life and having success. At some point, you're going to have to choose what's right. You either want to be a blessing or a curse to somebody.
Yeah. Nobody rides for free.
No.
Yeah. Hey, look, I mean, you know, you're going to suck on the teat of the government and put your kids in the school. Guess what? You're going to have to put up with all that entails. And that's what I keep telling people is that, look, yes, I'm for school reform. But, you know, bottom line, there are a lot of resources now more than ever to homeschool your kids. It's not for everybody, right? But, you know, you need to do something. And when it comes to your body, I think all of us are going to have to make the decision one way or the other. Somebody told me that, hey, you won't be able to go to the grocery store, et cetera. I don't give a damn. I mean, I'm looking to lose a few lbs. That's fine with me, right? We'll just make whatever we can.
Yeah.
I mean, in all seriousness, I mean, how you know, how are they going to end it all for us? So anyway, this is going to be the beginning of a lot of conversations with you. I'm glad you came on. I'm going to put this out there tomorrow. The reason is because yesterday was September 1st. A lot of you guys, that was your deadline. For teachers, it's going to be next week. This is a timely broadcast. Gaston, you're one of many, but I mean, even if you can, you know, shine a light on just one or two teachers and give them, you know, a little bit of backing, this is great.
No, again, thank you, Sloan, for having me on here. You know, you've been a great friend and a great supporter of mine. And again, those of you who are listening, it's time to take a stand. We're getting much closer to the battle than what we realize. We see it in the sports realm. We see it in the governmental realm. We see it in the educational realm, where people are taking a stand early. You know, even one example of a guy who was a coach in St. Louis in the NFL. You know, he resigned from his job. He said, hey, I'm not going to take the jab. I'm not going to take the vaccine. You also have, you know, players in other respective sports who are losing their opportunities because they're choosing their personal freedom. But you know what? At the end of the day, what is America about? America is not about control. America is not about manipulation. America is not about forcing something into someone's body. You know, we preach about my body, my choice all day long. Then when it comes to vaccine, oh no, you don't have a choice. No, I don't think so. It's time to stand up and be lions, not sheep. So be encouraged. This is a long fight. We're in it for the long haul. I don't want to sugarcoat anything because I do believe some things will get worse, but we'll see other things get better if we choose to take a stand early.
Right. And then, you know, linking up with like-minded people. I think the one benefit, you know, that I've seen from me coming out and saying, you know, and making my positions known and doing things that, yeah, I run the risk of getting in a lot of trouble, and I have. But we link up together, right? Because we're all people standing out, and you'll be surprised at the amount of people that will come to you and the amount of resources that will come your way. But you do have to take that stand, and that stand, Gaston, as you know, and as I told you last night, that's why you're on here, is that you know, if a tree falls in the forest, somebody's got to be there for it, right? So you're taking a stand. I'm giving you a platform. We're going to elevate this and keep talking about it so that other people are going to do it. You're right. I mean, this is America. You're doing something distinctly American, and we need to cast it in that light. It's not that you're not conforming. You're being a damn American. You're not being a sheep. That's what being an American is. All this other stuff, I don't recognize anymore. I don't actually recognize grown ass men outside by themselves with a damn mask on. I don't recognize that. So, and by the way, let's keep it that way, guys. We cannot normalize this stuff. Oh, okay, you need to give me an injection and I don't even know what's going on or what's in it, etc. Oh, sure. We don't recognize that. We need to still keep that in our mind. So what you're talking about, what you're doing, what you're saying, and everybody listening to this, what you're going to do and what you're going to say when you stand up for your freedom, that's American. That's America. We know we need to preserve that.
Amen, sister. You know,
all right.
Yeah, can't follow up with anything better than that. But again, thank you, Sloan. You know, this was an honor, and I'm looking forward to the next conversation.
All right. Excellent.